He looked up at Wu Ziyu's roots and said he had something to talk about. On the Mid-Autumn Festival night, the full moon was bright without unicorns or lights. King of Wine sat on the roots of a willow tree, confiding with his big boss. He was curious since the afternoon, so he asked first, "Do you really think you can't beat the nine-tailed fox?" He didn't say yes or no. He just told her that she's really strong, boss. Suddenly, King of Wine turned around and asked without beginning or end, "Superhuman rank 4, just how strong is it? Can a willow tree defeat a beast of a higher level than itself?" Wu Ziyu had never directly fought a battle with a rank 4 beast, but he had faced firepower that he had no way to fight back. Even though he died and was resurrected, now he is ranked 3rd and one step away from rank 4. If you risk your life and use everything you have, you can still win, sweepstakes or not. King of Wine continued to ask, "If I challenge an enemy stronger than me, I wonder how I will feel." Even though he asked unrelated questions, Wu Ziyu still thought carefully before answering. Perhaps most of it is taken over by fear. "I'm afraid that if I die, everything will be in vain." He chuckled, not knowing that divine beings were so strong, and yet their psychology when facing experts was no different from mine. Wu Ziyu gently asked if he said he wanted to confide in Willow Tree just to talk about those things. King of Wine pulled out the flute he kept at his side and smiled, saying, "That's right. There were only a few questions that needed to be asked, nothing much. Then I have long wanted to ask what this flute means to you that you always carry with you. Do you know how to play the flute?" It looked at the flute and stroked it as if remembering an old story, and the old story was when he was still in that faraway place. Since the spirit power wave appeared, my friends lost their way at the zoo due to the pursuit of strange animals. So I always keep this thing with me and want me to return it to her directly. Is she human? Although Wu Ziyu was a human in his previous life, in this life he had no sympathy and frankly said that he hates humans. Nothing but arrogant, selfish stupidity that grows in failure but learns nothing from its mistakes. Keep repeating over and over again. King of Wine was silent as he heard his boss lower his voice and say that we don't feel like believing and having faith in people. But whatever you say, Wu Ziyu knows that there are always a few people out there who are not like the ugly majority he just mentioned. There are also people who make me want to sacrifice, but those are too many and sometimes I don't even bother to mention them. These divine beings. We have been raised by humans since childhood, so we understand humans better than other animals. For some reason, it always feels like divine beings are very similar to humans. Wu Ziyu was startled by King of Wine's acumen. Looking at him so bewildered, I didn't expect that he had his own thoughts and paid attention to details to show how much he was like a human being. King of Wine continued, "The way divine beings talk or give orders are extremely human-like. Not all people are bad people." Having said this, Ninth Big Brother suddenly stood up as if to increase the credibility of his words. "At least among the people we know, no one is bad." Suddenly King of Wine stood up seriously and coldly told Wu Ziyu, "If divine beings become friends with humans or take their side, they look up at Wu Ziyu's gourd above and decisively ask, 'If I do so, will you kill me?'" Wu Ziyu's gentle eyes suddenly flashed with red pupils. He glared at King of Wine, not knowing if the Ninth Big Brother knew that he had just uttered an extremely sensitive sentence or not. On the full moon night, while people went to see the lion dance, King of Wine stood on the roots of divine beings and asked if he became friends with humans or stood on their side. Would his old boss kill him? If Wu Ziyu had eyebrows at this moment, surely everyone would see him frowning in contemplation. A moment later, the willow tree's gourd relaxed and gently gave King of Wine an answer. "It won't happen because we are friends. Besides, I know you won't harm us." King of Wine was actually surprised by the willow tree's definitive answer. It took into account the case of Wu Ziyu going crazy, so his answer made the panda silent for a bit, and then his mouth turned into a smile. It asked a question without beginning or end. Divine beings like to listen to music, right? That makes Wu Ziyu not understand what it means. "Don't say you want to sing for me." King of Wine gently brought the green bamboo flute he still carried to his mouth and played a piece of music, not sure if he could blow out the Vin house music or not. Wu Ziyu suddenly saw a strange blue light emitting from that side. He was surprised to look at King of Wine and see him attentively playing the flute, his whole body flying with spirit power and light surrounding him as if he were lost in another region. Wu Ziyu also closed his eyes to rest in the music. Fortunately, I discovered it wasn't Veta House music but lofi chill music on the full moon night. From below the roots, Tianguan and Kim Xiang were enjoying a unique light effect that looked like a flock of fireflies had just passed by. That night, in the sky, there were not only stars from the Milky Way galaxy, but also shimmering golden spots of light. King of Wine immersed himself in the music it created, both like saying goodbye and like immersing himself in the last peaceful moments with divine beings. A tree and a bear side by side enjoying the scenery for a long time. King of Wine also had to leave the willow tree's area. It hadn't gone far when it turned around and looked at Wu Ziyu's vines fluttering in the dark night. Goodbye, everyone. King of Wine's heart swelled with sadness, wondering if anyone would still call him the night big brother since he left. Do they still consider it part of the family? Just as he turned around and was about to walk away, someone very familiar stepped on his foot right in front of him. Who else but the nine-tailed fox would come to? King of Wine saw his mouth chewing on 2 bottles of something. King of Wine asked in surprise, "What are you doing here?" Foxlie threw the contents of his mouth to his younger brother, told him to grab it, and opened the 2 small bottles in his hand to see. King of Wine was extremely surprised when this was the bottled life essence of divine beings. Do you want it to be brought into the city to promote sales or something? Silly again, this is what divine beings told me to bring you, because I know you have to go far away. Nine-tailed fox just said that. Just as he was about to turn around and leave, he lowered his voice and said, without looking at King of Wine, that the last match didn't count. Next time I have a chance to play another match. King of Wine remained silent until the nine-tailed fox passed by him. Okay. Her face was filled with determination to not look back anymore and turn towards her eldest sister and leave Wu Ziyu's territory. The coastal city was plowed into ruins and filled with smoke and fire from the remnants of the raid. Seawater seemed about to flood into the city. Inside, we could only hear the crackling sounds of flames on roofs and construction sites, broken windows, and cars lying haphazardly on the cracked road surface as if there had just been an earthquake. There was no sign of human life left. Amid the deadly silence of the whole city, something huge set down with a resounding bang. A strange beast as big as a 10-story building is coming in from the sea. The monster was slithering in with glowing red eyes. The ocean waves behind the strange beast suddenly rose 3 times higher than it and then crashed into the city, engulfing everything. Only the roofs of high-rise buildings can be seen in the sea of water. This stone-like strange beast turned back towards the sea where it had just come from. Let's see who comes later and likes to create effects. Not far away, the dark back fin of a killer whale was silently approaching. This is not Wu Ziyu's whale, looking so ferocious. This is the 4th-rank sublime Ho Jing Wang, screaming a warning that the rock should know better. This rock full of fangs also reached rank 4, so it is not afraid. Hearing the whale roar, it also opened its mouth to scream loudly. Then both of them rushed to fight on the spot. The whole sea was like 2 sea monsters fighting each other without a moment of peace. The cold, faraway place of Wu Ziyu has been quite peaceful these past few days, with only the sound of human voices at high volume. The sound from the video of 2 worms crawling on a white tree branch was initially full of excitement. Cameramen introducing everything recovering after the cold winter. A mating season has come to the entire forest here. Wu Ziyu's staff, young and old, gathered around the broadcast area to watch intently. People say that these 2 worms will quickly give birth to a group of adorable little worms. After a few seconds of talking, the 2 guys' voices were screaming at each other to run away. It's attacking. Oh my God, run away, run quickly, it wants to kill us. King Qiang heard the ah sound in the video and was bored. Can I change to another genre? What do these people eat that makes them so stupid? The world is full of dangerous beasts, so come take a close-up and praise them for being cute. In the sky, the white crane spread its wings and flew towards the thick snow-covered area where pregnant divine beings usually resided. Suddenly he looked out that the terrain below looked strange. It turned out that the divine beings towering above the ground suddenly disappeared, leaving only the tiny cave below standing alone. The white crane screamed in alarm sauce divine beings were kidnapped. I don't know if anyone has heard it yet, but suddenly a giant root of Wu Ziyu rose from the ground and twisted in the air. Moreover, he jumped up a few times to block the white crane's flight path. While flying happily, I was suddenly hit several times and felt completely weak. His dark roots dug into the white snow and rose high, making a splashing sound. From the angle below, the willow tree looks like a mutated octopus running around. His countless branches spread out below the main roots, fluttering on the water's surface, made Wuziyu happy. It's too big. It's so huge that it's about to cover the whole island. The view up here is cool and windy, and the quality is really high. Wuziyu couldn't help but mutter happily that he had done it. Finally, you can make it as big or small as you like. The system panel was telling him that this great sage skill, as big and small as he wanted, could transform himself to the desired size when consuming spiritual energy, is a fixed type of ability whose attributes cannot be changed. Wuziyu is no longer a divine being, but he is like a willow tree growing in the Titan world. The mountain at this moment was no different from a rock under my feet. I used a few roots to flick it away. So he grinned and laughed. The mountain range wasn't even as high as me. So happy, the staff, not knowing what he was doing, looked up and muttered. Just now, they thought they had crashed into some strange thing that had just entered the area. It turned out to be the giant tree root of the naughty boss. The flower flew back to the little white serpent and whispered, "Look, look." The divine beings played happily like children, bored and didn't bother to talk. Both of them are already ranked 2 supernaturals, so they get along quite well. The flower also grows underneath the petals, looking like a miniature green human, with arms and legs, eyes, nose and mouth, making communication even easier. Where Wuziyu was having fun, somewhere else there were dead people with their mouths open. Ho Jing Wang, who was fiercely challenging an opponent of the same rank 4, is now dead in the mouth of a mossy stone. The victorious beast's entire body was covered with wounds, some shallow, some deep, with several holes in them. It looked so haggard, but he still won anyway, so he scooped up the whale and put it in his mouth to chew. "Nourish my wounds that are bleeding profusely." Its eyes widened and it let out a loud scream as Ho Jing Wang's spirit power flowed into its body. From behind the rock, something that looked like a tail grew longer and increased in thickness, whipping continuously in the air until it formed a tentacle with a curved part just like a dolphin's tail. The tail also has the characteristic black and white color of the enemy it just swallowed. The mutated mossy rock has taken one step closer to becoming the peak of rank 4. Its head grew a few horns, the wound completely healed, and its shape changed enough to scare away any strange beast. To talk about the reason Kate of Wine decided to go bush after the night of confiding with Wuziyu, we have to go back a few years ago, when it was still in Black Ostrich Park. One day the sound of people screaming, "Quickly, quickly, there's a lion loose. Prepare the tranquilizer gun." If I didn't say it in advance, no one would have thought this was the Kate of Wine. At that time, it was still a stupid panda with a characteristic gentleness, chewing bamboo shoots on the grass like every day. I don't understand why the lion targeted a tiny baby panda that couldn't even fill his stomach, but its black appearance, even when it just opened its mouth and smiled to greet him, was enough to scare King of Wine to tears. The lion opened its strong teeth and roared fiercely, "Hello, brother, please give me a piece of meat." But King of Wine could only hold his head and cry in his heart. He thought he was dead when suddenly a human girl jumped out from nowhere and put her arms between him and the ferocious lion. According to the scenario, she would have used her hands to fight the animal, but the guard was faster and put a bullet right into the head of the unruly lion. His gun barrel also emitted smoke from afar, successfully saving both the pink-haired girl and the trembling panda's lives. They shouted to each other and ran to the body of the huge lion that was lying aside. Shouted, "Is it okay?" The girl who was standing tall and blocking the panda now sat down and thanked herself for being alive. It turned out that she was also very afraid of that lion. After what happened, she turned around and asked the panda behind her, "Are you okay? Are you scared?" Shiu. King of Wine stood in the mist and looked into the distance, reminding that the she panda that day was lovingly called Shiu by the girl. Time has passed like a layer of dust covering old memories. King of Wine no longer uses that name, but the ties to the memory remain. It now stands on a mountain cliff looking towards Yinnai Citadel in the distance, full of giant sharp trees sticking out of the ground to prevent strange beasts. King of Wine finally returned and mumbled that you must still be alive. Xiao. That pink-haired girl is like the King of Wine's last link with humanity. Because of her, he was willing to give up his comfortable life and return to his old place. The Yenai Citadel where King of Wine was headed was also where the mossy rock that had just defeated the 4th-ranked killer whale was also slowly approaching from the opposite direction. A month later in the Lama Mountains, it was still cold in the snowy winds. Suddenly there was a loud scream from above. The white tiger sprouted wings and soared towards Wu Ziyu, saying continuously, "Quickly, quickly, tell the boss, otherwise if you're too late, it won't be good." Wu Ziyu was surprised to see the familiar big guy return. For the time being, he hadn't heard what White Tiger said. "I just noticed that it finally broke through," as he said, and returned here. Already promoted to Su Fam, rank 2. His appearance is ferocious. He must be the king of the jungle. Whoever called him a stupid tiger, please apologize to him. Wu Ziyu held out the vine and gave the tiger a big thumbs up. "I know that if you want to make an effort, you can definitely do it." White Tiger was very happy to be complimented. His face seemed to bloom with joy and his mouth opened wide when he was recognized. He nodded repeatedly and told me to rush back here as soon as I reached rank 2 to show off to my boss. "Wow, I admit you leveled up really fast. I also reached 2nd rank a long time ago. From where did Tianwen appear?" Arms crossed, showing off his handsome appearance, praising you as a secondary person and bringing about yourself as the main one. "Where did the flower come from?" and follow the yellow ants. "Hello, Tiger. I also accidentally leveled up without any training." White Tiger's face darkened. Hey, you two aren't talking. Maybe he doesn't know these guys are making fun of him." "That's not all. There are white snakes and ice bears coming to welcome you to practice for a month and you've just reached rank 2. These two don't brag, but the cool appearance of the 2nd rank keeps showing off in front of them, making the congratulations suddenly fade away. Moreover, the ice bear said that now everyone has reached rank 2. Luckily, my uncle joined in time, rank 2, which he worked hard to achieve. Each person had a sentence in their ear that made the White Tiger look a bit stupid. They say rank 2 is normal. It's okay to suddenly wake up and become rank 2. Sometimes, even if you don't want to, you have to level up and it's tiring. The newly returned White Tiger was so sarcastic that he couldn't bear it and flew back to his old mountain. Let the group behind call back. Wu Ziyu looked up at the tiger and walked away in self-pity. He asked the people below, "Don't you think it's unbearable to be sarcastic?" Baxa looked at the ice bear who was grinning. "We sincerely congratulate you on your level up, boss." Wu Ziyu didn't bother arguing with them and felt happy because in just 1 month the employees had clearly improved their levels. The total strength of his multi-species company has been significantly improved. The willow tree itself awakens the little sage's new skill, Ice Age of the Century, allowing him to freeze the ground, ocean, and sky in the blink of an eye. Not to mention spirit power has reached more than 8 million, allowing him to freely upgrade or use combat skills. Underground minerals are absorbed relatively well by the roots of the willow tree. Wu Ziyu's attributes were numerous in him. He left the smaller ones for the staff to use. Now the chimpanzee army is guarding outside, but Wu Ziyu could now send an army of polar bears there instead of chimpanzees to defend the place. He looked up at the gray sky filled with cold snow. Suddenly I remembered that it had been a long time since I had seen the green trees of Dashin Labyrinth. Waiting for everything here to be arranged, he would return to his old place. The panda has been gone for a month and I don't know if he has found his old friend yet. Normally it babbles in my ears non-stop, but now it's so quiet that I'm not used to it and miss it so much. In a faraway place, hoping it was safe and sound. Unfortunately, what Wu Ziyu wished for did not happen. King of Wine's whole body was covered in blood and cuts, trying to stand up straight. One of its eyes was hit and couldn't open. But the cloak that normally cannot be burned by fire is now tattered and cannot fly in the wind. It cried out in pain and looked up into the air with its teeth clenched so tightly that it blowed because it had eaten the sharp tentacles of this strange beast. Standing in front of it, King of Wine looks extremely small, but the walking stone's red eyes looked at it with strange eyes. Hatred and anger flowed out from there, thick streams of blood from his eyes. Of course, at Wu Ziyu's place, no one knows that King of Wine is facing a huge strange beast that is considered the most dangerous at the present time. The Wu Ziyu family's staff today were still watching cartoons in front of the screen with the same excitement as usual. At the moment the mother brought Shin in and scolded him, "Why aren't you wearing pants?" Then they laughed with great pleasure. None of the strange animals wore clothes, but when they saw the cartoon, they laughed and saw the little boy being forced to wear clothes by his mother. King Kiang took out his phone and scrolled to see what new animations there were today. He was about to watch another series, when suddenly the honey badger next to him said he wanted to watch the Animal World program. There's a herd of animals here, but he still wants to see what's out there. King Kiang suddenly saw breaking news that Yenai City was attacked by strange beasts. He immediately ignored the need to find other cartoons to watch. His face suddenly became serious because wasn't this the city that King of Wine had always paid attention to before? I still remember that night Big Brother went there alone. King Kiang then clicked on Yenai City News. The strange beast gathered to watch and listen to the video, which was full of human screams. Behold, there it is he who has saved us. No, please don't. He's been caught. Humanity's last hope has been shattered. The pile of rubble was dark because there was no artificial light left by humans. A huge, strange beast was carrying something tattered up high and approaching me. King Kiang saw that it looked like the small red cape that Ninth Big Brother often wore on his shoulders. But the light there was too low, so he wasn't sure until the strange beast turned its tentacle around, lifting the thing it was lifting to a brighter place, and all of Wu Ziu's staff were shocked. Ancient Empire also began to doubt that it was indeed not just a cloak in the wind. The beast was holding one of Ninth Big Brother's legs and lifted it while it was unconscious or dead. His entire body was covered in blood and covered with cuts and cuts. That day, the entire northern landscape area was both rushed and silent, as if sinking into the silence of despair. Wu Ziyu didn't understand why he had a feeling of sadness in his body. Suddenly, the area where the strange beasts were watching the video erupted in howls. King Kiang, who had just suddenly crawled out of the pile of sand and soil after taking human form, panicked and immediately reported the situation in Yenai City to divine beings. As soon as Kim Xiang and the others who were nearby heard the news, their hearts felt like they were dying. Everyone feels a strong urge for revenge in their souls. The white tiger and ice bear, who usually play mindlessly on the ground, or the nine-tailed fox, who is arrogant and calm on high, each with red eyes and a deadly look. Wu Ziyu gave a short command with a strong voice, but brought with him all his haste. All quickly returned to Dashin Labyrinth. In Yenai Citadel, the beast is opening its big mouth as a grave for the enemies it killed, afraid that when everyone gets there, King of Wine will become a trophy in its stomach. But think of the scene of the Ninth Big Brother bleeding and dying painfully, and the monster's octopus-like red eyes filled with hatred. Wu Ziyu roared like crazy. We have to fight. The explosion rang out, throwing up dust all over the sky, then immediately followed by the roar of all the strange beasts running on the ground along with the winged species flying in the sky. Each of them had glowing red eyes and looked ferocious and fierce, ready to crush the crowd of people running away and screaming in panic below. Animals have gone crazy. The fence cannot stop them. Among the crowd of people fleeing, there was a pink-haired girl who for unknown reasons ran back towards the animal area. The security guard shouted, "Why are you running in that direction? It's very dangerous. The animals will eat her." The uncle's voice rang clearly in the girl's ears, only making her run faster. She gritted her teeth and thought of the boy named Xiao Xiu. It is a shy little panda that is afraid of people. Other animals see something wrong and run away, but it's stupid and will definitely stay there and suffer the battle on its own. The more she thought about it, the more worried she became, having to run faster for fear of reaching the place where it would die. But the little panda was actually clutching its head in fear and hiding under a wooden bridge. When an animal with bright orange fur approached, the beast stretched out its muscular forelimbs, shattering the entire pile of wood with just one blow, revealing the beautiful little panda trembling underneath. Xiao Xiu only dared to shrink her whole body as much as possible. He held his head with both hands, not daring to look up, ignoring the bloody scratch on his forehead. It tried to gradually back away from the monster as far as possible. But the lion had already aimed for the delicious prey to escape. It let out a ferocious roar. The beast flashed with murderous intent, baring its fanged teeth and lunged towards Xiao Xiu. The little male bear didn't even dare cry until his face turned pale and he could only accept his fate. There is no one like King of Wine who does not fear heaven and earth like today. Suddenly the mutated lion stopped, because the pink-haired girl caught up and knocked the grass rake on her head. It made a loud pop. It turned back to look at the girl menacingly, A blow with all her strength was not enough to make it feel itchy, but I certainly won't forgive unreasonable people running to make me crazy. Facing the huge lion, the girl still clutched the only weapon in her hand. She shouted, "Xiao-Xi, run now." But her Xiao-Xi was so scared that she clenched her teeth and didn't dare lift her legs to run. He just stood there, tears welling up at his eyes, watching the lion change its target to the pink-haired girl. But that day neither she nor it died. The sound of gunfire saved both of them from death. But that alone was enough for King of Wine to never forget. So today he returned to Yenai City. He wanted to find the pink-haired girl from back in the day. At that time, he alone crossed the ruined city full of concrete, the cold air without any human breath. He sadly looked down and mumbled as if lost in old memories. Xiao-Xiu is back, everyone. The city was quiet and surrounded by strange objects. There was not a single person in the whole city. Everyone ran away, or hiding. Even the rank 4 strange beast that the media reported on was nowhere to be found. Suddenly, some distance away from him, a groan rang out. The immature voice belonged to a child who seemed to have just fallen from somewhere onto the ground. I discovered an intact box of instant noodles near my feet. It is fun. So lucky. He yelled at the only food he could find. Luckily, he didn't need to starve anymore. It's been a few days without anything in my stomach. King of Wine climbed the artificial mountain that blocked the view. Looking down from above, I asked the human, "Who are you? Why are you at my house?" The boy was so scared that his nose was running and he quickly backed away. "Is it a talking panda, a strange beast?" A moment later, his voice was heard. I thought I was going to die this time, but I didn't expect to meet a panda that could speak human language. He followed behind King of Wine, looking even more limited in height than a panda. Now that I'm no longer afraid, I can comfortably start a conversation. "Who are you looking for to come all the way here?" This place is an extremely dangerous, red, forbidden area. Looking back at him, King of Wine asked where was the monster that destroyed this city. The boy was visibly scared. His eyes narrowed and his nose was running. All he could do was answer, "I don't know." Suddenly it disappeared. Yesterday, he fought with a killer whale. The whole city was half burned because of that battle. King of Wine walked slowly and asked, "So why don't you run away and stay in this city?" At that time, the whole family ran away, but there was no time. It came so suddenly. At that time, a giant barricade was suddenly erected to block all roads, surrounding the whole city. Not long after I was separated from my family, that giant monster appeared. Even the army cannot defeat it. Hearing the next sentence, he easily said, "That day, many people died." King of Wine stopped to ask if the city was in such chaos. "Weren't you afraid of death? Why were you still running everywhere?" "Because everyone was locked up for a month and there was no longer enough food." Shaking the precious box of noodles in his hand, the boy happily said that he also wanted to live and did not want to starve to death. "That's the way to have a chance to see my family again." Those words are important in the midst of adversity, making King of Wine stiffen. Doesn't he also try his best to see his family and loved ones again? Looking far away, the boy said there was a government bunker under a fortified building. All the survivors are hiding there. People at the zoo are the first to be protected by the government because they understand the behavior of strange animals. Maybe the person you want to find is also there. The little boy grabbed King of Wine's hand and dragged him along with him, excitedly saying that in the army that protects us, there are also pandas. They won't shoot you. King of Wine's hand was suddenly shaken. He panicked for a few seconds and then immediately pulled back. He hesitantly said he wouldn't go with him. The remaining road is probably no longer dangerous, and you can walk back by yourself. It means to say goodbye here. The kid doesn't quite understand. This panda goes everywhere just to find his old hometown, so why doesn't he follow him after coming here to find someone? Don't you really want to see that person again? Just go there and you'll see it. King of Wine lowered his head slightly. He was confused and said now is not the time to meet that person. "I don't dare to meet her." He stood a little distance from the boy. He said, "Now I have work to do. When I'm done, I will go there to find you." After speaking, King of Wine smiled and added to his sentence, "If I'm still alive, I will definitely come back." The little boy didn't know what to say. He could only open his eyes wide and look at the red cape fluttering behind the panda. Suddenly he hesitated for a few seconds and then shouted, "Hey, you can't die. We're waiting for you to come back." King of Wine heard the words the boy said and smiled, feeling warm inside, but didn't turn around to look. Even though we only met for a few minutes, having people waiting to welcome me back is such a pleasant feeling. But just after taking a few steps, something huge and black hit the ground behind him, causing King of Wine to jump. It landed under the huge shadow of the thing that had just stirred up the rocky ground. He looked behind in confusion and was hit by that tentacle, discovering that the human boy had been blown away by a dark thing and hit his head against a broken wall. He was covered in blood and motionless. His eyes were white and he looked like he was dead. King of Wine's pupils constricted when he saw the person who had just talked to him a few seconds ago and was now in a situation where the odds of death were 10 to 1. That giant black thing wriggled in the air and then retracted at a terrifyingly fast speed, until it disappeared into a crack in the road. There was a soft shaking sound there. Then the ancient beast under the concrete jumped up. King of Wine clearly saw two ferocious red eyes. It turns out that after destroying the city, it was always hiding down here. King of Wine lifted the boy in his arms and saw that he was still breathing but kept shaking without responding. He shouted a few times, but the boy did not react. He seemed very weak. The monster's attack was clearly fatal enough to end humanity. Afraid that if he was too late, the boy would die, King of Wine took out the vial of life essence given to him by his eldest sister Nine-Tailed Fox when leaving Divine Beings, and decisively poured it straight into the boy's mouth. Luckily, the kid is awake and healthy. He jumped up happily to show off that he was alive again. But the resurrection of humans made the ancient monster unhappy and showed its entire towering body looking like a threatening mountain. King of Wine faced him. He pushed the human boy back and shouted for the boy to hear. Quickly run and find a place to hide. It rolled its eyes at the ferocious monster, showing an expression ready to fight even if it was rank 4. The goal we sought has finally appeared on its own. It really saves you the trouble of searching. The huge ancient beast stood tall and blocked the daylight. It cast a long shadow over the King of Wine and the human boy. Hearing the echo through the tentacles and body was like wind blowing through a cold crack in the rocks. Felt the threat emanating from the small creature at his feet. It opened its mouth and let out a mighty scream. King of Wine never expected it to hide underground to sneak attacks so easily. Thinking about this, I skipped the step of taking a sudden preemptive attack. It clenches its teeth uncomfortably. Anyway, I was preparing to get into a fighting position. I called out to the little boy behind me to quickly hide, but he still hesitated and asked, "Hey Panda, what are you on doing? I came here to fight with it. You go away." The boy stared as if assessing the situation, partly because he had just been beaten to death by the beast, so he was afraid. Part of me doesn't want to leave King of Wine here alone. But when he saw the panda glanced at him with a serious warning look, the boy turned around and ran straight without looking back, leaving King of Wine to face the beast. King of Wine's entire body erupted with power that spread into the air. Its forehead frowned tightly as it looked at its huge opponent, while its cloak fluttered with enthusiasm. The monster was just waiting for that to start the battle, then opened its mouth wide and let out a fierce roar. The wind blew towards King of Wine like a level 7 or level 8 storm. It had to resist the overwhelming feeling of spirit power to the point where it was difficult to even breathe. This seems to be even more intense than the feeling of feeling the power of divine beings. This spirit power is like a bottomless abyss. Is a rank 4 supernatural beast this strong? King of Wine looked up at the beast. It knows that there is a difference of 2 levels, but with strong faith it came here. At this moment, he smiled bewilderedly to reassure himself, but wondered if he could really defeat this beast. A large tentacle of the stone stabbed straight at the King of Wine. The rock will crush it like a chili pepper in a single punch. The impact of the tentacle's head and the ground made a loud noise, but King of Wine easily jumped up and escaped. Several other tentacles seemed to catch its path and quickly rushed forward with a huge size that overwhelmed the King of Wine. The panda could not change direction, so it remained in the air. Use both hands crossed on the chest to perform the fossilization skill, being hit by the monster's tentacle punch. King of Wine spat out a pool of fresh blood as soon as he collided with the tentacle, even though he had enhanced himself. It hurt so much that it shed tears and clenched its teeth in hatred. This blow was so heavy that it made him bleed. Must hit more carefully, landed on the ground, and quickly slid away to keep distance. King of Wine is slowly thinking about how to counterattack this monster. From above its head came millions of tentacles. No one could count how many there were. It smashed those tentacles to the ground. It squealed loudly as it plowed the place where King of Wine stood. It wanted the panda to not be able to run away. To prove the theory that the cameraman is always immortal, not far away, two journalists immediately took the opportunity to point their cameras in the direction of the ancient monster fighting. The situation was tense, but he was told to go to work. He carried the camera and whispered, "Hey, don't come any closer or he will find out and kill both of us at once." The MC was also afraid of death, but was more afraid that the audience wouldn't know this news. So she told him to put the camera in that corner so she could report the current scene live. As you can see before your eyes, this is a giant creature known to be silent for several days. Suddenly appeared again today. We suspect it is fighting with another beast. This is the second strange beast after the giant killer whale last time. The cause of the fighting is currently unknown. We think that fighting for territory is the most convincing reason. Aha! She screamed loudly when the camera captured the shape of the strange beast performing a new move to fight the ancient beast. Hesitated for a few seconds, and when she zoomed in, her voice of excitement mixed with surprise rang out. Isn't that the panda familiar to everyone? The people in the shelter watched the bear on the screen. Everyone was talking and saying, "This seems to be new reinforcements sent by the government. But why is there only one participating in the battle this time?" In the corner of the room was a huge panda with its wounded body bandaged and huddled next to a short-haired girl who also followed the news feed. The little bear on the screen looked so strange, she muttered, "Is that the Iron Knight's strange beast?" She didn't recognize which team it came from compared to the pandas the government sent to fend off. The bewildered onlookers realized that the one fighting seemed to be in a disadvantageous situation. Considering both size and quantity, it seems to be at a disadvantage compared to the black giant. Behind him, people immediately shouted indignantly, "Why did the country only send such a small animal? Isn't there a more powerful character?" So that it was beaten so badly that it could not fight back a single blow. In a place filled with academic books like a library, an older man with his nose buried in the screen called out to the girl behind him, "Come here and look." Xiaoe walked up to the confused old man and asked, "Hurry up and see if this panda is the panda I'm thinking of?" Although the image was not too clear, looking at that familiar fur color, Xiaoe mumbled a few words and realized that it was Xiao Xiu. It was alone and he was fighting one-on-one with the monster that had blown up the entire Yenai citadel. Her tears began to flow. There's no mistaking it anymore. The flute on his body is his. Can't be wrong. It's back. It's protecting us. The streak of yellow light that shot away was King of Wine, who had curled up like a ball and rushed straight towards the beast's mouth. The sound of its collision with the air made a strange sound. There was a fierce rumble when King of Wine's entire body collided with the ancient monster's head. Unfortunately, it's just like a marble shot into a mountain. The panda's entire body was shot back so easily that the beast didn't even bother to block it. Saw King of Wine thrown forward a distance away from his mouth. It opened its mouth again and let out an earth-shattering roar. It released a wave of spirit power that overwhelmed the King of Wine who was trying to stand. The spirit power wind cut through its body, causing pain and blood flowing from head to toe. Even my teeth were covered in blood. King of Wine couldn't resist and was blown down, causing a large crack in the ground. From behind the layer of dust and smoke, it crawled up and coughed miserably while blood continued to flow from the wound. Its body is now covered in scratches. It raised its awkward eyes towards the beast, realizing that its recent attack was so fast and powerful that neither the eyes nor the senses could perceive it. My ears are still ringing uncomfortably. His nose was also injured. It breathes tiredly and with difficulty. Remembering the nine-tailed fox in the distance, King of Wine silently lamented that he had fought hand-to-hand with the strongest person in the divine being's family. Why, with his current strength, facing a rank 4 monster, he had no strength to fight back. What should I do? What to do now? Only now did King of Wine feel a clear difference in both his size and level with the monster. It looked like it was struggling to get up like a small dog under a big mountain. Those watching through the screen were also worried. What should I do? Oh my God, he's about to be killed by a strange beast. But is that so? King of Wine sadly raised his eyes and looked at the massive body above, silently asking himself, why is this time no different from the previous times? I myself can't do anything to help this city, while I love it. Remembering the late afternoons and sunsets when I was Xiu in the zoo next to Xiao, carefree only gnawing on bamboo shoots. The city not only has the people he loves, but is also the house he grew up in, where a pink-haired girl lovingly takes care of it. King of Wine suddenly thought of what he really wanted. That is to stay in this place without having to leave for any reason. At that time, the little girl dared to use a stick to beat the giant mutant lion in order to save the timid panda. King of Wine still remembers the moment Xiao's face turned pale and she thought she had seen death. He thought to himself, could it be that he had left the girl behind and run away alone at that time? Because of fear, you throw away the person you love the most and the person you love the most just to run away to save your life. Thinking about the beautiful and gentle Xiao loving him makes him even more desperate. King of Wine from that moment determined never to return. He didn't dare appear in front of her anymore. But the city that Xiao loved was bombarded to this extent by the beast. King of Wine stood on the ground, preparing to receive the giant tentacle that was holding it down, causing rocks and soil to fly up. The beast's eyes widened a bit with surprise. Instead of hitting the ground like he thought, King of Wine now used one hand to block the attack. Its eyes flashed with intense spirit power, its heart filled with determination, biting the bottle containing the life essence of divine beings and saying, I want to kick you out of this city. No one knows when the ancient mutated beast was given a birth certificate in Australia and has Australian citizenship. So when it first emerged from the shore, people said it was a completely new creature. From Australia, the monster followed the sea straight to the Huaxia Federation. Its appearance was earth-shattering and turned the whole country upside down. In history, no other strange beast has ever been able to do so. Therefore, it is honored to be considered the highest-level beast the world has ever seen. Huaxia used all the strength of the entire nation to counterattack. This time to attack the rank 4 strange beast Huaxia brought 5 times more firepower than when conquering Wuziu's area. The whole world is paying attention to this shocking event, because this is the first rank 4 monster to appear. If Huaxia can defeat it, it will give people confidence in the future of defeating strange beasts. Everyone is filled with hope that the second-ranked military country in the world can easily resolve this invasion. How about the result? The 250,000 soldiers that the entire army deployed to fight the beast died, and there was no one left. Plus the number of civilians who could not escape in time but died in the rubble or became food for the monster. The total casualties reached 570,000 people. By the 6th day, the total number had increased to 650,000. The monster's path is not obstructed by anyone. It's like going to a buffet, it sees people as food. 710,000 people died on day 15. On the 23rd day, nearly a month after it landed, 830,000 people died. As of today, it has been a month since the ancient beast has been harassing the mainland. The total number of people trampled to death, eaten or killed in battle, and a number of indirect deaths, such as lack of food and water or buried in collapsed buildings, has reached nearly 2,196,000 to be exact. The glowing red eye of the rank 4 strange beast became the obsession of all mankind and was also the most dangerous monster known. The image of it harassing Yenai City and then disappearing for a few days until fighting a small panda soon spread everywhere. The brown-haired girl doesn't know where that panda came from. Why did the Iron Engineering team only let it fight alone? What's even more confusing is that the 7th squad was completely destroyed not long ago. How did a panda appear? From behind her, the door suddenly opened, revealing the figures of 2 men in suits hastily entering the command room. As soon as the person wearing the blue-striped vest on the right entered, he didn't say a word, his face was gloomy, and he ignored his subordinate's greeting. He came here as soon as he heard the news that a strange beast dared to confront the monster that had killed millions of people. Observe the image of the 2 sides fighting on the screen with a tense attitude. What he was most worried about was expressed in his urgent voice. Can it win? The panda's body was covered in cuts and bloody scratches, and his strength burst into flames. Is there really any chance of winning this match? King of Wine gritted his teeth and used his fiery limbs with bright, determined eyes. It has bet all its life and strength on this move. Not long ago, on a full moon night when he and divine beings were talking, he asked King of Wine, "Do you really think you can't defeat the 9-tailed fox?" King of Wine honestly doesn't know. After all, the eldest sister is very strong. The recent battle has stopped before the climax. So King of Wine doesn't know if she can win if the fox uses all her strength. He bowed his head and whispered in a low voice, saying that he should continue to practice slowly like that, not knowing when he would be able to overcome his eldest sister's strength. Divine beings, is there any way to become strong instantly? Wu Ziyu hesitated a bit and said it was a difficult question for the boy. We inherently absorb the spirit power of this world to create our own strength. But not everyone knows that spirit power is actually stored in the heart, not the muscles. Normally, when you use or unleash your body's functions, you only use 30% of your spirit power. If you want to use it 100%, you must push out the spirit power stored in your heart, so that every cell in your body, every hairline, is covered in spirit power. That's the only way to achieve superpower in a short time. But Wu Ziyu also had to remind King of Wine. Normally, the heart holds 100% spirit power, but suddenly pushing it out, just thinking about it, you know it is extremely dangerous to use. Why does that guy have such a gloomy face? I'm just talking about knowledge, not forcing you to practice. King of Wine laughed and said, divine beings can rest assured that they won't dare use it even if they die. But when standing on the brink of life and death and the hatred overflowing, King of Wine uses the way that divine being speaks. It pumps all spirit power from within the heart straight to the outside. It spat out blood from its mouth and screamed loudly as its entire body erupted with fiery spirit power flames that lifted up the surrounding rocks. King of Wine's spirit power wave was so strong that it blew towards the ancient creature, making it unable to close its mouth. Suddenly, its ferocious red eyes realized that the person creating that wave was actually the panda that he had beaten to a pulp. The ground under King of Wine's feet shattered. He roared, "Come here, you damn bitch!" The strange beast really came. It swung 10 million sickles towards the King of Wine, slams loudly into the ground, underneath the dust. But this time it couldn't retract its tentacles. Because it was unclear where the ice was, it quickly covered all of the monster's moving frozen tentacles. In just a short moment, taking the opportunity to lock its movements, King of Wine jumped high right in front of the strange beast's eyes and opened wide in surprise. Then it successfully stabbed its head right into the chest, making it roar in pain. The whole body lost momentum and fell backwards. This blow causes the monster's mouth to spit out a large amount of blood, directly damaging it, unlike the original being thrown back when the attack occurs. The turn of events attracted all the people sitting in front of the screen, holding their breath. Everyone hopes for a ray of light from this panda. After successfully ramming the monster to the point of spitting blood, it gave another straight blow with an extremely powerful light effect. The staff in the command room announced in panic, the panda's spirit power is increasing rapidly, breaking through to 900,000, boss. It didn't stop there like it was being pumped, but continuously jumped to a larger number on the measuring device. Not only the blue-suited boss, the brown-haired woman next to her also mumbled the question to herself, will this panda win? Currently, not only Huaxia, but the developments in this match are being watched closely by the entire world. In addition to the firepower of this battle, it also lit up a great hope for humanity, placing all of its survival on this panda. The huge tentacle rushed through the air, opening the fight against the ancient beast. King of Wine was ready to respond directly with his clenched fists, to the point of bleeding. Come here, bitch. The stream of spirit power was released from the small hand and cut the tentacles into two, adding dozens of cuts that were both long and deep, oozing blood. But many of them are just considered skin wounds. King of Wine knows that, and its body is also bleeding severely. However, compared to the force of the previous attack, King of Wine finally succeeded in giving the strange beast a blow with enough destructive power to make it grin. It's true that a rank 4-layered beast with thick and hard skin can only cut its tentacles. Right in the air, King of Wine once again sent out spirit power to stir up the atmosphere. It roared with a hoarse voice due to excessive exertion, pumping energy to push itself to jump high and continuously attack all the tentacles that are diving to prevent it from jumping to the main body. Success! King of Wine stood among the tangled tentacles broken by his hands. Now you can rush towards the animal and hit it. Unexpectedly, the tentacles fell and the vision became clearer. The beast's giant mouth was closing in. It placed its huge mouth down on King of Wine like a cage at a terrifying speed, stumped on the ground below, causing everything to fly. This hasty attack was used to crush the facilities and opponents before the panda, so the group of people watching the developments all looked extremely confused. Don't tell me the raccoon was bitten to death. There was a long silence in the rooms with people, and people with strong beliefs like this blue-suited boss did not believe that such a thing happened. You must not die, you must escape. The beast raised its head and pushed the newly bitten food down into its stomach to digest. But why is its dark skin now emitting a dim light? Too hot, too hot. It opened its mouth and burst into flames. Even if you have poor eyesight, you can still see the huge fire burning as a launching pad for King of Wine to rush out of the beast's mouth. The strange beast's eyes widened as the temperature in its mouth continued to increase. The King of Wine in the sky gritted his teeth and looked down at the place he had just escaped. It did not run away, but blinked for a short moment and exerted great fireball. Using all the spirit power he had, King of Wine used fire to press it into a huge ball that glowed so brightly that reporters reporting live on the battlefield stood there dumbfounded. Isn't that the sun? King of Wine is now like a tiny dot in the middle of the giant sun that I created, shining brightly in the sky of Yenai City, gloomy for a whole month. So lucky, so lucky. Before I die, I could see this trick with my own eyes. The nine-tailed fox's oldest sister also didn't have the chance to become a teacher. King of Wine continuously uses his skills to make the sun he creates shine brighter and brighter, until it was almost the same size as the monster. It rushed towards the ancient beast with its mouth wide open. I made this trick just for you. Today I will give you a taste to open your eyes. The great fireball became bigger and bigger each time until the King of Wine and its cloak were just a small dot floating in the center. It put all its spirit power into it, so its whole body ached, but King of Wine still gritted its teeth and roared, "Die, you bastard!" It swiped the entire ball across the beast's left cheek like a stray star hitting a dark planet with enough force to instantly clear the impact. Seizing the opportunity, King of Wine turned around and hit him on the right cheek, causing the rock to roar like someone had cut its throat. King of Wine's loud screams also mixed with the beast's roar, "Ah!" His strength continuously bruising the ancient monster, making it writhe in pain and struggle forever. Its tentacles fluttered on the ground. Wherever King of Wine took the great fireball, the monster's flesh cracked. The scene of the monster's flesh and blood shooting out black and red patches in the air was completely filmed by the journalists. The reporter nervously commented, "It's been a month since landing on land. This is the first time a strange beast has injured a monster. That giant creature had no way to fight back. This battle can probably be won, right? In every corner of Waxia, as long as there were people alive, they were attentively watching this fierce battle. Everyone sincerely prayed to God to give the panda the courage to win. Therefore, the hope of humanity is also bet on this battle. The people of Waxia are gradually turning off their news, waiting for death in despair. Today, watching such a fierce battle made my heart boil. A tiny panda, no bigger than a giant creature's paw, emitted powerful energy that hit the monster so painfully that the monster couldn't stand it. Old people and young people all hoped for King of Wine to win. Looking at his expression, you could tell how much they expected him to kill the big monster. In the underground room, Xiaoe frowned and shouted his name. Xiu, try harder. Try your best." Although she didn't know why the shy panda appeared here at this time, but she hopes it wins. King of Wine did not disappoint everyone. He rammed the fireball into the monster's right eye. After stabbing dozens of horizontal and vertical lines all over its body, this shot pierced from the outside to the inside. Never before had the beast felt such overwhelming pain and suffering. King of Wine, after a series of blows, still had the strength to appear in front of him and roared ferociously, "I tell you how beautiful this Yenai city is. This is not the place you should go. Stinky things, get the hell out of here. I will give you a special gift, a limited edition giant fireball." King of Wine roared and immersed himself in the brilliant fire, rushing towards the place where the monster was struggling miserably with its black tentacles. King of Wine's great fireball was pumped with spirit power to the limit, radiating blinding light like the sun falling on the human world, pouring a column of fire straight onto the ground where the ancient monster stood. Burn all the land and rocks, and it wants to burn down that hateful thing. The impact of the impact was so great that reporters standing a few hundred meters away were clearly affected by the wind and terrifying heat. Both of them knelt on the ground, stuttering and unable to breathe. Amid the blinding dust and debris flying in the air, the reporter coughed and muttered to herself. Why did the airwave travel so far? What are you doing? Can the camera still be used? He scrambled to get up. The immortal cameraman was still filming fine. The reporter witnessed the most shocking event of her life with her own eyes. But the camera panned to that place and showed a live scene that made everyone so stunned that they couldn't say a word. Everyone was silent, holding their breath, no longer shouting like before. Because before their eyes was the image of a panda being caught by that tentacle and hanging high above. This is also the image that the King brothers saw on the projection screen. That two's entire body was covered in blood and red horizontal and vertical cuts. He let go of his hands and feet, not knowing whether he was alive or dead. After a long while, a stunned sound of hesitation rang out among the audience watching. Been killed. As expected, it is impossible to resist a monster that is too strong. What should I do? When the whole human race witnessed with their own eyes the scene of their hopes being extinguished, the commander's hand slammed down on the table, bringing with it an expression of resentment. He didn't shout and cheer just now, but in his heart, he really hoped King of Wine could win or at least light up a ray of light for Huaxia. But now it's no longer possible. Only bitterness rises between my clenched teeth. The loss spread to the employee next to her, but she was just a normal person and she didn't dare to go crazy like the boss. But my heart is also restless. The monster tired of carrying the panda's legs and then slammed the tip of the tentacle carrying King of Wine's wet food onto the ground. It's not dead, but it looks really shabby. It put both hands and feet on the ground and coughed intermittently. It looked up to see the huge thing towering above. So it's over, right? So all the efforts were in vain. I just hope it's all a dream. Mixed with it is the fatigue of King of Wine. I don't know how many bones he broke. The life essence given to me by divine beings had already been used up and the bottle was thrown away. I don't know where it was. Suddenly King of Wine thought this was the human state of mind when facing divine beings. When you lose at the hands of your boss and are helpless to do anything but wait for people to deal with you. King of Wine seemed to return at the beginning of the match. He was just a tiny panda standing at the foot of the mountain looking up at the top and had never felt such clear despair. The little boy who was saved by King of Wine started running towards the reporters. While they were still in shock, a child emerged from the battlefield and he held the reporter's hand while crying and shouting, "Please save that panda. Please don't let it die." As soon as he finished, he burst into tears. Tears poured down as he said, "He came to the city to see his friend just once. He couldn't die. I beg you to save it." Xiao looked at the screen and immediately realized the reason King of Wine came to Yenai at this time. She covered her mouth with her hand to stop her crying and tears welled up in her eyes. "Is it because of me that Xiu came here to die? Enough is enough. Run, don't risk your life anymore. Quickly run away. Xiu, if I don't run anymore, I will surely die." In King of Wine's head, the word run sounded faintly, but it urged him to move his legs. The beast stared at it, but did not attack yet, proving that there is still a chance to escape. King of Wine's mind struggled fiercely, telling himself that if he didn't run away, he would definitely die. What is death? Death is death. Death and never seeing the people you love again. The person who despite the long journey came to Yenai City and beat until his bones were broken was Xiao, whose hair was not bright and gentle. He stood up and silently asked, "Xiao, are you looking at me? I am no longer like the distant days when I was Xiu, who could only hold my head and huddle on the wooden floor, breathing heavily." King of Wine knows that this time, if he decides to stay, death is the only answer. But the fire in his heart burned like a big pile of firewood. King of Wine bowed his head and muttered to himself that this time I will not back down. We won't run away anymore. Just once is enough. Eyes flashed with determination. King of Wine has chosen to not surrender. If so, then fight to the end. He clenched his hands and opened his mouth, screaming loudly into the void. Xiao, can you hear me, Xiao? Its voice echoed through the empty city. It spat out dark pools of blood from its throat as it spoke. "Did you hear me? This time I won't run away anymore." Xiao covered her mouth from the horrifying scream. By saying these words, her Xiu will definitely not run away. Looking at it through the screen, confronting death made her unable to think of any greater pain than what she witnessed today. When spirit power recovered and gave humanity great strength. Because in order to resist strange beasts and eliminate potential dangers, humans have massacred a series of creatures.